Hi, my name's John, and I'm the owner of this YouTube channel. And today I'm going to review the next code of points, which really does not have that many changes. It's probably the lowest amount of change since, as far as I can remember. Every other code I can think of, there was more change from one to the next, but there's not too much here that is different, even less change than from 2012 to 2013. And I also don't see a lot in here that's too different from the code of points proposal that I made a video about a few months ago. So this version of the code that I'm looking at was posted to the FIG website on, I think, May 18th. I suppose it's possible there could be another version that comes out before this actually goes into effect. So I've gone through and I've read it, and I've highlighted anything that seems significant. So let me share with you what I found. This was the first kind of interesting section. I don't know if this is a change or not, but there's sort of a cap on the maximum number of turns that will, beyond which a skill will not be recognized as new. So it looks like for basic turns on the floor exercise, they're not going to count anything higher than a quad turn. So anyone who is hoping that, like Marta Pihan Kulescu, I think that's how you pronounce her new married hyphenated name, she was doing a quintuple turn on the floor, or at least attempting it, but it doesn't seem like there will be much point given this. Turns that have different leg positions are capped at triple turns. And then split straddle jumps will be capped at 1.5. So doing a double twisting split leap, which I've seen a couple of times, won't be a new element. And then more complex leaps, like let's say the full twisting yang bow jump that Ksenia Afanasieva did at the 2015 Worlds. The highest that can go is a full turn, as opposed to a 1.5. So I guess the biggest change in this code of points, which also was mentioned in the proposal, is that the total number of composition requirements, which used to be called special requirements at some point, has been reduced from 5 to 4, which means routines will probably go down in value by an average of 0.5 of a point. Later you'll see that the vault scores have also been similarly devalued to keep things equal across the apparati. This, I don't know if this is new, but this was sort of news to me. In order to get connection value, the connection has to be done without a fall. Maybe that isn't new. But that's sort of different than like on the uneven bars and on the balance beam. I think if your hands grasp and then you fall, you still get difficulty for the skill, but I guess not for the connection that it may have been part of. All right, let me see what else I highlighted. There is this, which says that if you do a vault and only one of your hands touches, you lose 2 full points. So that seems to be a remedy for the Michaela Skinner situation. This, I believe, is newer. On the uneven bars, you can only do 3 elements that have the same root skill. So maybe Russian style routines that have a lot of inside stalders are going to be in trouble because of this rule. Notice though that a forward stalder and a backward stalder are considered different root skills. Okay, not much has changed on the uneven bars in terms of connection values. It is worth noting that, for this connection right here, there has to be at least flight or half turn. That isn't new, but it used to be like in, I guess probably 2004 would have maybe been the last code where you could do this. You could do an inside Stalder into a Tkachev and get a 1/10 of a point in bonus, but that hasn't been true for a while. This is going to be new in this coming code. You can no longer just do a kip after a Shaposhnikova. You have to execute some other type of element, whether it be a, hip circle or a transition back down to the low bar. Simone Biles actually does a kip after her Shaposhnikova, and that would be considered an empty swing going forward. I don't think this is new, but it's worth noting that there on the this is the balance beam we're looking at. There are requirements for how many dance versus acro elements you have to do. So anyways, regarding the 4 versus 5 composition requirements, on all of the events, the one that was deleted was the dismount. It used to be that your dismount had to be of a certain value, and now that does not seem to be the case. So I guess you could dismount the uneven bars with an A dismount if you wanted to, but it's one of your counting skills. So I don't know that we'll see too many people do that, but it does mean that in the team and maybe the all-around competition, perhaps we'll see more gymnasts doing C dismounts. Not much changed on the balance beam either in terms of connection values. There's only 2 things that, I guess 3 that I notice. One is that apparently you're going to be able to get 2/10 in bonus if you do a round off into an F or higher dismount. I'm not really sure why they're considering that a connection, because the round off really is required to do at least backward dismounts of that difficulty. I guess that does mean that if you did a front handspring into a double front dismount, you would get connection for that, which I think makes sense. But I'm not sure that it makes a lot of sense for backward dismounts where you literally can't do a double Arabian off the beam without doing the round off first. Maybe they're just trying to boost the difficulty of those dismounts or something. I'm not really sure what they're thinking there. Another change is that for this connection here, you have to do a B dance element rather than just an A one. So we'll no longer see gymnasts doing front tucks into split jumps. It will really only be the wolf jump or the sideward straddling jump, or the pike jump, that will be eligible for connection. I also notice, and maybe this isn't new, but I think it is, that non-flight acro elements can be used for series bonus as long as they're a B or higher. So for example, a front walkover on one arm is a B element, so perhaps we'll be seeing elements other than just back handsprings done as part of series, and I think that's a good change. Another thing I notice is this explanation of what it means for elements to be rebounding to satisfy the series bonus. So what does it say? Either there has to be a 2-foot landing with an immediate takeoff, so that would be like a back handspring into 2 feet into a back layout to 2 feet, or landing a flight element on one leg, then placing the next leg down with an immediate rebound from both legs into the second element. So that would be like a front aerial walkover into a front tuck, like we used to see Maria Livchikova do. So does this mean that you can no longer do 2 front aerial walkovers in a row for connection? That seems to be what this is saying. Okay, why did I highlight this? There have to be elements done, elements or movement done down to the beam. So I see a lot of elements, or not elements, but gymnasts who just kind of drop down to the beam, touch their torso to the beam, but they don't necessarily move or do an element. And so I think that is a deduction, and I see quite a few gymnasts doing that nowadays. All right, on to the floor exercise again. The 8 elements have to come from certain categories. Here is a change though. So one of the special requirements is that there be a series with both a backward and a forward salto within it. So currently, gymnasts don't have to do a series at all on floor. They could do 4 single, element tumbling passes if they wanted to. But now there have to be 2 saltos in the same pass, and they have to be from different directions, and they can't be aerials. So I think like Julia Steingruber, she does all backward tumbles, but then she does an aerial or a front aerial somewhere in her routine. That will no longer be allowed. I don't know if I totally like this because I think it will reduce the variety. We'll be seeing a lot of gymnasts doing, 2 whips into a double Arabian front, or we'll be seeing a lot of 2.5 twists into punch fronts to satisfy that requirement. I don't know if this is a change, but this is interesting. A B element can be indirectly connected into a D element for bonus. It doesn't just have to be a C element, like a 1.5 twisting back layout, walk out into a round off back handspring. So like an Arabian is a B skill and would satisfy that connection. I think that this might be a change if I'm reading this right. Currently, there's lots of rules about dancing into the corners. This just says there's a deduction for lack of variety, so I wonder if that means they're softening the requirements about how to get into the corners. It's also a deduction if your exercise ends with an acro element and there's no choreography after the dismount. Sometimes gymnasts do that when they run out of time. Also, there is a deduction if you immediately do a second tumbling pass without any choreography after the preceding one. So that's really about it. Like I said, not a lot of interesting changes or upheavals here. I said that vaults were going to go down across the board in order to make up for the fact that other disciplines are going down by 0.5 in composition requirement. So just for comparison, a double twisting Yurchenko will be a 5.4. It was reduced by 0.4. It's currently a 5.8. And the Amanar goes from a 6.3 to a 5.8. So that means that they've narrowed the difference between the 2 vaults by a 1/10. Let's see here. Oh, I think I might have skipped something. Sorry about that. No, I guess I didn't. Okay. I wonder what the Chang is. I guess I didn't highlight that. Okay, another change. This mount, a round-off Arabian to catch the high bar, I think Alessia Dudnik did that. That's been upgraded to an F. Similarly, if done in a piked position, it's a G, although I don't think that element has ever been performed. Sorry about that. Let's see, clear hip circle through handstand with half turn to flight on high bar. I haven't seen that done in a long time. Nadia Comaneci used to do that release skill, and now it's an E. I think currently it's a C. It's a D at most, but I'm pretty sure it's actually only a C, so they've raised that pretty considerably. Which is interesting. Okay, Jaeger saltos piked have been given an upgrade to E from D. Similarly, the stretched Jaeger is now an F. Let's see if I found any other altered element values. This is a dismount. Swing forward, that means a backward giant, with half turn into salto forward stretched. So to me, that E dismount sounds kind of like a laid out double Arabian. Never seen that performed. Swing backward. Well, let's see, is that a double somersault? Yeah, that's a laid out double Arabian. Okay, swing backward into, okay, so when they say swing backward, they're talking about a forward giant. So a double front with a half twist has been upgraded to an E. Similarly, it's also an E now to do a front giant into a half twist into a double back. So one of the Huang Huidan did that dismount in either the 2013 or 2014 World Championships. I forget which one, but that's now an E, no longer a D. Here's an upgrade. The switch leap mount is now a D. It used to be a C. Julia Steinberger does that. I'm in favor of that upgrade. Kind of like on the uneven bars, other mounts have been upgraded. Maybe that's because so many gymnasts really just prefer to kind of do a simple mount onto the beam. So this would be a nodi onto the beam is now an F skill. Similarly, a front aerial onto the beam is an F skill. I've never seen anyone do that though, and it seems like it would be kind of hard to take off from 2 feet and then do a front aerial onto the beam. The Arabian onto the beam is now a G skill. The I think this mount is named after a gymnast named Luke Coney, but this is a full twisting back handspring onto the beam like Svetlana Korkina used to do, E skill. Now any salto onto the beam from a round off is an E skill, even if it's just a simple back tuck. I think I kind of like that change. Interestingly, the full twisting back tuck is only an F, so it was just the Arabian that got pushed to G. Although the it's actually the layout to 2 feet is now an F, so that used to be an E. All right, almost done here. Johnson with additional half turn, so that's like a split leap 3/4. Or I guess a switch leap 3/4 is now an E. The sheep jump has been downgraded to a C, but this ring leap, a ring jump, excuse me, is a D. And I believe currently the ring leap is also a D, but you don't really see them mention just a ring leap. This says jump. All right, wolf jump, full turn is a D. It was a C towards the end of Nastya Liukin's career. That seems to me to be an upgrade. This I thought was kind of interesting. This back turn is now a D skill. And the last time I saw somebody do that was a Chinese gymnast, I think at the 1993 World, so I'm glad to see that getting more credit. So I highlighted this just to show that these are the sort of non-flight B acrobatic elements that we might see as part of a series. So a Valdez back handspring step out, layout step out would get a 10th in series bonus. The Inoti to 2 feet looks like it got an upgrade to E, which makes sense to me. There was a US gymnast, Shayla Worley, who I think was the first to do that. All right, this is interesting. I think I have to go back up for the sake of comparison. Okay, so any of these sort of front elements with half twists are E's. Even it looks like the Gregoras element, front tuck with half twist, that's only an E. As long as you take off from 2 feet, it looks like they don't really care about the body position. However, the Protonova, which was a true front with half into back tuck or pike, she did a pike, that has retained its F value. This was an element in previous code of points that disappeared. It's looks like a very difficult dismount that I think Nellie Kim used to do, an aerial into a back tuck, so a double salto from an aerial cartwheel. That's back and is now an E. This is new. So if you watch the 1976 Olympics, Olga Korbut does a jump off the beam with a full twist into a front tuck. So it's different than a full twisting front tuck because she does the twist before she flips. The laid out version of that is now a D, although I've never seen anybody do that. Another change is it looks like the gainer off the end of the beam dismounts that have become very popular amongst gymnasts from the Netherlands have been devalued. So you now have to do it stretched and with a full twist for it to be a D. The simple layout that like Sanny Weavers does now is going to only be a C. Although I guess that's not the end of the world because C dismounts will no longer fail to meet a special requirement in the event finals like they do now. All right, on floor exercise, the only changed element value that I saw that was really of note was a whip salto backwards with a full twist is now a C element. It's been a B for as long as I can remember, and why maybe did they do that? I guess because you could do a full twisting whip and indirectly connect that into a triple twist and get the 2/10 connection bonus. So that's it. That is all that I found. Like I said, not a very satisfying or, not a lot of change here. Certainly not as many changes as I would have liked to see, but this is our new code of points. Let me know if you have any questions or spot any mistakes. Thanks.